This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
The U.S. Deputy Secretary of State for African Affairs, Tibor Nagy, has indicated U.S. support for African-backed solutions to the ongoing war in the Cameroons, working together with the Swiss Initiative for Negotiations. I am Innocent Chia.
Manchu BBC did not cause the school boycott, and he knows it. So why lie? This is Tanijud Agwa Ozugen.
Ambazonia is a girl. So viva Mother Ambazonia. This is Annie Ntam.
In the words of the early 20th century African-American poet, Sir Langston Hughes, looks like what drives me crazy don't have no effect on you, but I'm gonna keep on at it till it drives you crazy too. This is Willibrod Adave.
The naysayers and the cynics are back in town with their distraction dance, but Ambazonians must keep their eye on the ball. The Swiss-led process is the only current, credible and internationally recognized mediation process. This is Divine Angie.
How is it possible or even conceivable that after the political entanglements with the dubious and nefarious forces of La République, we could imagine that Ambazonia would unshackle itself by a mere shrug of the shoulders?
This is Lambert Mbom.
Ambazonia will be developed not by big book people who call themselves elites, but by the army of hard-working citizens willing to roll up their sleeves and get dirty in the business of building Mother Ambazonia. This is the MOMO.
The campaign for the restoration of the independence of southern Cameroons has France on the ropes. This is Manjang Jurambe.
The question should be, can children go to school? Can they go to school? The answer is no, because there is simply no security.
So I think that we are going astray by fighting for the stick and letting the snake run away.
This is Nafrida for Ambazonia Calling.
This is edition number 057 of Ambazonia Calling of Sunday the 21st of July 2019.
Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming. Oh yes, I know.
In today's edition, we have another message from jail, and it won't make everyone happy, but it is our duty to bring it to you and to provide the counter. You don't want to miss the devil on mask. Our guest today is the indefatigable, the fearless apostle of Ambazonia, Abdul Karim Ali. Stay tuned. We are starting a special segment today, and it is called Big Mob Corner. Stick around to hear Nafrida start us off on this new segment.
This is the experience of Amba people when the flames of freedom fanned by truth light up the hearts of the children. There is a fire on the mountain. Fire on the mountain. There is a fire on the mountain. Fire on the mountain. Run, run, bring some water. Run, 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 run. Run, run, bring some water.
We will get this edition started as usual by welcoming Lambert Mbom, who's got our editorial for the week.
The Ambazonia Independence War is a marathon, not a sprint. The fact that we have had some remarkable breakthroughs in a very short time, such as getting the colonizers to agree to third-party mediated talks within less than 2 years of the start of the war, compared to 30 years for Eritrea to bring Ethiopia to the same point, and South Sudan bringing Sudan to the negotiating table are the exceptions, not the rule. This is a marathon in which the kilometers covered are in lives lost, limbs broken, ghost towns observed, self-defense volunteers enrolled. The colonizer is playing his own game. Yaoundé is playing the clock. They are buying time to avoid negotiations if they can, to wear Ambazonians out if they can, to seek out and try to weed out any form of self-defense. While the general thrust of progress remains in favor of Ambazonia, it will be dishonest not to recognize that the enthusiasm is waning. In the diaspora, the popular protest marches that pulled mammoth crowds from across the United States to the White House, to the US Capitol and the United Nations headquarters in New York, as well as to London's 10 Downing Street, the Bundestag in Germany, those enthusiastic crowds, out in the rain, in snow and in sunshine, those crowds have dropped drastically, almost to zero. Ambazonians in the diaspora are letting down fellow Ambazonians on ground zero, and they are letting them down big time. With fewer Ambazonians killed in 2016 and 2017, our crowds were bigger, more diverse, more determined. You would have imagined that Ambazonians would get more determined and participate more in protest when the killings at peaceful protest on the home front turned into targeted killings, extrajudicial executions, and then into full-blown genocide. A call for Ambazonians to organize protest over this weekend worldwide had to be postponed after fewer than half a dozen capitals said they would stage protests. Someone has compared this lackluster attitude of Ambazonians to students who passed the mock GC exam in flying colors simply because everything they studied came in the test. Then instead of studying harder for the real exam, the student takes the GC for granted and ends up failing. Ambazonians cannot consider that they have passed any exam until they hoist the 13-star blue and white flag in BOYO. The hardships we face were to be expected. How is it possible or even conceivable that after the political entanglements with the dubious and nefarious forces of La République, with a well-oiled and protected international machinery shielding her over the last 5 decades, we could imagine that Ambazonia would unshackle itself by a mere shrug of the shoulders? On the marathon, taking shortcuts would disqualify us. Adding to the regular country Sunday ghost town for frivolous reasons, or topping ghost towns with long lockdown operations only serve to exhaust the Ambazonian marathon runner. Every marathon is a beast, a long and tortuous journey. Anyone on it starts off with steam. Then as the race grows, the sprint of the start slows down to an on and off jogging, then into brisk walks, panting steps of a fatigued runner, and pauses to rest and revitalize on bottles of water. Ambazonians can learn from the best on marathons. The great Ethiopian marathoner Haile Gebrselassie says 3 factors are needed to win any marathon. They are discipline, hard work, and before everything else, commitment. Discipline is one of the greatest qualities this revolution lacks. It suffices to go on social media to see what a mess Ambazonians make of their own revolution. Ambazonians have built themselves into a house divided among itself. No doubt the center cannot hold. I don't want to suggest that everything on WhatsApp is noise, but making noise on WhatsApp is no mark of commitment. The Ambazonian struggle is not for the fastest, but for those with the endurance, discipline, and perseverance. When one runs a marathon, one has to run against the distance, not against other runners. In Ambazonia's quest, the biggest interest by some groups has been to compete against fellow Ambazonians. We need to drop such bad habits in order to win. Every Ambazonian who feels the excruciating pain of the marathon we are all running and is tempted to give up should remember the wise words of Christ. No one who puts his hands on the plow and looks back is worthy of the kingdom. So fellow Ambazonians, keep on keeping on. This is Lambert Mbom for Ambazonia Calling.
What Cameroon has done to us, I want you never to forget. The pain they have brought to bear on this generation, I want you never to forget. Not out of hate, but so that the next generation will remember and make sure they do the things they are supposed to do, never to go through this again.
I will continue to play my part to ask the people of Southern Cameroon to take their revolution into their hands and continue the fight to liberate themselves.
I'm sorry to say, because of France's policies in Africa, in French Africa, the state of La République du Cameroun do not have any pressure on them to find a way to resolve this issue, because they are always thinking that no matter what happens, France will always be there to give them coverage.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner of the Nyamfuka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. Innocent here has got the news wrap-up for the week.
Clout Public Affairs has been retained by the terrorist genocidal regime of President Biya of Cameroon to whitewash its muddied reputation. According to documents submitted July 12 with the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, requiring U.S. entities and individuals acting for or on behalf of foreign interests, Clout Public Affairs will, among other responsibilities, put a gold ring on the nose of the pig with focus on new media.
There is another side to lobbying as well. Between 2008 and 2010, a study of 30 different corporations found that they spent $476 million on lobbying and in return received almost $11 billion in tax rebates. Some would say this is a good example of big business using lobbyists to cheat the system.
The contract for Clout Public Affairs, an American outfit, is the third for Cameroon in less than 2 years.
It's exactly the type of Africa policy I've been wanting to see since I first got into Africa in 1978. Those people who interfere with the democratic process, or if they're endorsing violence or for corruption, we are going to sanction them.
The Assistant Secretary for U.S. Department of State's Bureau of African Affairs, Tibor Nagy, has indicated U.S. support for African-backed solutions to the ongoing war in the Cameroons.
The Cameroon government is just not being proactive in addressing this problem.
In a tweet, July 19th, the foremost authority writes, quote, "Symposium hosted by African Forum of Former Heads of State is a unique opportunity to address the broader challenges facing #Cameroon that will complement and support the Swiss initiative to resolve crises in the Northwest and Southwest." End quote. The statement reveals both the U.S. support for the Swiss initiative as well as the genuineness of the initiative, even as some activists within the Ambazonian community maintain a dose of skepticism and apprehension.
The more fundamental problem, and in my view, the more existential problem for Cameroon is what's going on in the Anglophone region. The government has been totally, in my view, ineffective in addressing that. Some of their actions have actually worsened what is going on there. There's been just a mounting cycle of violence from both sides. The radicals in the Northwest, the ones who call themselves the Ambo Boys, and then the security forces. We've had horrendous loss of life.
An online publication, DM Online, has announced that Germany has ended its military training assistance to Cameroon. The announcement, July 17th, came as a surprise to many who were unaware of the presence of German soldiers in the conflict-torn African country. The drawdown comes on the heels of growing angst in the German Bundestag over the human rights record of Cameroon.
Permit me to state here for the record that the very coinage of the ongoing crisis as the Anglophone problem is in itself a misnomer intended to oversimplify and water down the underlying annexation problem affecting the livelihoods of 8 million people.
The leader of the Southern Cameroon's Congress of the People, KUPE, Milan Atam, has reportedly been canvassing U.S. Capitol Hill staffers regarding the Ambazonian War of Independence.
The fact that recent clashes opposing Mbororo and Fulani herdsmen against a supposed group of Southern Cameroonian farmers is treated here today as a case study in religious intolerance within the Anglophone separatist conflict speaks volumes. What I see here is a desperate attempt by the Republic of French Cameroon to spin this off as another instance of unrest between opposing religious factions within a zone it considers to be within its territorial boundaries.
Whereas many laud the presentation, excerpts of which have been shared extensively on social media, Milan Atam remains a controversial figure at best in the revolution. His blood ties to Jean Fauchive, a dreaded and larger-than-life police chief who instrumentalized the police state in Cameroon, as well as Milan's shifting explanations regarding what may have led to the abduction of Sisiko Ayuk-Tabe and the Naira 10 in Nigeria in 2018, have crystallized doubts on his real intentions and whether he is not an agent of La République du Cameroon.
Do not be fooled into believing that there is any such thing as a one and indivisible Cameroon. There was once a country called Southern Cameroons. It has come back to life, and it will never be imprisoned again.
Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet now and then.
The co-founder of the Cameroon Anglophone movement, CAM, which morphed into the Southern Cameroon's Restoration Movement, SCAM, Dr. Arnold Yangbang, has been laid to rest by family and friends in Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Among several firsts in his life, Dr. Arnold Yangbang was the pioneer national treasurer of the Southern Cameroon's National Council, SCNC, a position earned not only because of his integrity, but also his sacrificial contributions to and for the cause of self-determination and independence for the annexed, state-terrorized, dehumanized and exploited peoples of the former United Nations Trust Territory of the Southern Cameroons. He was also a premier ambassador within the SCNC globe-trotting diplomatic efforts charged with providing what was then the hardline edge of CAM, declaring the zero option that set into motion the path for the current war of independence. Dr. Arnold Yangbang was, on a personal milestone, a physician specialized in obstetrics and gynecology from the University of Lagos Medical Teaching Hospital. He also trained and schooled in England and India, respectively. In 1971, Dr. Yangbang was hired into the public service in Cameroon, serving in several roles across the country. By 1982, he retired from the civil service, opting to open a private hospital specialized in women and children's health in Bamenda. Authorities systematically rejected the application, instead recommending for the opening of the state-of-the-art clinic in Douala to continue the financial asphyxiation of Southern Cameroons while guaranteeing exorbitant taxes were paid into the city coffers in Douala. Dr. Yangbang retired and eventually relocated to the United States with his surviving wife, kids, and grandkids. Born on March 12, 1934, Dr. Arnold Yangbang died on May 24, 2019. He was 85 years old.
Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet now and then.
You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions, and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Innocent Chia. Stay with us.
One of the biggest stories of this week was to hear Ambazonian prisoners of war in Kondengi prison break out in the Ambazonian anthem in protest at the fact that one of theirs had been put away after a fight with a Cameroonese citizen.
One of their brother fight with La Republic person. Instead of take them to go put for Soli, they take the Ambazonia, they want to take and go put for Soli. So now when they see now, the Ambazonians, the police, they wake up say they must give back their brother. So the superintendent of prison.
It is nights like this with the chant of Ambazonia up in the air in the prison in Kondengi that give all the people of Ambazonia hope.
I think that will take them to the central prison now for Yaoundé. They are about 150 of them. They don't come out until they give back their one of their brother where they take and go pick up Australia. If not so.
Bravo, comrades. Even behind bars, you are nobody's prisoner. Innocent is staying with us. She's got the second part of our news wrap-up for the week.
Look at what La Republic have done to the people of Miami. Those civilians. Look at one mother collapsing. Yeah. Look at what is going. Look at what La Republic have done. Look at what the vampires of La Republic du Cameroon have done to our civilians in Miami.
La République du Cameroon terrorist soldiers continued despicable actions in Biamé State Friday 19th with the savage killing of a husband and wife couple. In a video since gone viral, relatives and friends are left wailing and weeping uncontrollably, confused as to why the continuous targeting of unarmed civilians by the army.
This is the work of the vampires. The work of the vampires of La Republique. You cannot see their work.
Meantime, 3 terrorist soldiers of La République du Cameroon were reportedly gunned down by Ambazonia Self-Defense Restoration Forces as they pushed back from the marauders. Another video gone viral shows La République du Cameroon soldiers mourning over their fallen partners in crime. In Bali, meantime, unconfirmed sources reported the killing of 6 terrorist soldiers by the local self-defense restoration volunteers. Unconfirmed sources are blaming a travel ban that has left several travelers stranded for several days on the BOYO Council. On Friday, Mimi Mefo reported that several of the passengers that made it out of Fundong were blocked in Mile 10 towards Bambui and after Mbingo, where intense negotiations lasted as many as 4 hours, and there was still no headway at the time of the reporting. BOYO Council had not claimed responsibility.
The magistrate, Justice Chi, look for ya, Bouma. On lui a pris aujourd'hui, mais qui talk tell me why it crook no actually neri.
Ambazonians remain concerned but questioning of a video alleging the kidnapping and interrogation of Justice Valentine Chi Bouma.
One catch you, you run what? Oui. You run what? On avait arrêté Aya et les autres. Lui fuit. Pendant 6 mois, he run. We have him now. So he should tell us why. Look for up. Oh, Dino.
Popular for taking hard stances against the government, people still question lots of things regarding the video, including the broken French and pidgin used by his kidnappers.
You know what? You don't understand. You don't understand what? Not Dino, il est magistrat. make it tell me pourquoi if we.
I'll be the right that time where lawyer will be strike. They will strike, and the teacher will be strike. So I'll be the right to support them.
Meantime, 3 videos purporting the torture by Ambazonian defense volunteers has been making the rounds of social media. In one, the victims are women getting flogged by alleged Amba boys. Many have flagged the video for several reasons, including the fact that everything used by the alleged Amba boys to beat the victims seems to have a problem. The sticks are breaking and falling apart. Their kicks are on particular parts of the body that insulate pain. And the main victim in the video has been identified as a pro-government agent who has emerged in several other videos passing for an aggrieved Amba mother. In the second video, the alleged Amba boys are beating on the soles of the feet of 2 alleged traitors.
No, I'll show them. I'll show them.
A third video is reportedly one in which the bad Amba boys have been captured and are confessing. These bad Amba boys are allegedly the same ones in the second video who were using machetes to beat the feet of their alleged traitors.
Yeah, now you only want me to so now the team over confused for Barak because if you overpaid me for Barak, so the only tell we say well cash person for ghost and more massacre the person or more even shoot the person say key. So now that will be up the outside.
At Ambazonia Calling, we continue to call on Amba boys to have respect for Geneva Convention rules of engagement. I am Innocent Chia, reporting for Ambazonia Calling.
If you go to Moyuka, nobody they live here. If you go to Munyenge, nobody they stay there. Everybody don't run away because of wuru wuru. But when we pray, oh, revival will take place in Allah. Hey, for sure.
The French are confused by both the determination of the people of Ambazonia and the extent to which volunteer fighters are taking on the army of La République. Not ever since the rebellion in Haiti, which the French lost. Not ever since the independence wars in Algeria and Vietnam, which the French equally lost. Not ever since the invitation by Sékou Touré, Guinea-Conakry's independence president, for the French to pack up and leave, have the French felt so helpless. Barrister MANYU Jutambe says the French are on the ropes in Ambazonia.
France has been fenced out of having any meaningful role by its diplomats on the ground in colonial Yaoundé, especially those who took sides in support of the Hawks within the Biya regime. The French mission in Yaoundé aligned with those within the genocide Biya regime who felt that the best approach was to use military force in crushing the Ambazonian independence resistance. Last week, the French Quai d'Orsay appeared to signal for the very first time that Paris was re-evaluating her position vis-à-vis Ambazonia. It did not also escape Ambazonia Calling's attention that it was about the same time that Champs-Élysées or the French presidency decided to recall its ambassador to colonial Yaoundé. No matter how you dice this move, it is ample evidence and primary admission that a serious miscalculation was done by an ambassador who did not only go rogue, but went as far as becoming native. He was so caught up in France's colonial mind warp, so much so that he opted to chase the kind of outright colonial victory which the French fought for but lost in Haiti, Vietnam, Algeria, and Guinea-Conakry. The scorched earth policy that is being implemented by colonial Cameroon's occupation forces in Ambazonia today, under French command, training and supervision, as per the 1959 Accord de Coopération, is a mirror image of their activities and approach when they confronted Guinea-Conakry after Mr. Sékou Touré rejected their fake independence within the so-called Communauté Française d'Afrique. The French burned down Guinea-Conakry the same way they have been burning down Ambazonia. Schools, hospitals, hotels, offices, churches, and much more. In the case of Ambazonia, we must add to the above the fact that the old, the infirmed, livestock, and even an oil refinery could not escape the wrath of their flames. The genocide in Ambazonia is along the same lines as the genocide in Rwanda. The number of victims may not be the same scale yet, thank God, but it is genocide nonetheless, for genocide is a crime of intent, not of numbers. The French are petrified by the fact that the total independence of Ambazonia will return France to the status of a third world country. They are worried, and rightfully so, by the domino effect letting go of Ambazonia will have. History teaches us that when weakened by the war that saw them lose Haiti, the then French Emperor Napoleon had no choice than to accept a little cash in order to sell off French territories under the deal known as the Louisiana Purchase. Independence for Algeria led to all French colonies demanding no less. The holding of the very first sovereign national conference in Benin in 1990 led to a wave of national conferences and demands for the same across French-speaking Africa. The suggestion during a visit to Nigeria last year that Francophone countries could mint their own currency is on the verge of materializing next year with the emission of a West African currency not controlled by France. The campaign for the restoration of the independence of southern Cameroon has France on the ropes. When, not if, Ambazonia regains international sovereignty, the French are aware that they will face serious discontent across the rest of French-speaking Central Africa. They are not naive. They know that there will be a new order and an end to the French mafia and kleptocracies that have continued to govern Africa despite their claims of granting the continent's nations independence in the early 1960s. This is Manjong Jurambe for Ambazonia Calling.
Rising, 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 Ambazonia rising to fall no more. Ambazonia rising, 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 Ambazonia rising to fall no more. Them are shooting us, them are killing us, them are burning our houses, so them are killing us, them are shooting us, them are raping our children. Wait till we do, oh. 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 Atanga Chipolo. Wait till we do, oh. Mr. Bia. Wait till we do, oh. La Republico. Wait till we do, oh. UN is watching when they are killing us. They are burning our houses, oh. AU is watching when they are killing us. They are raping our children. The land is green, the land is beautiful. That's the reason they are killing us. The land is green, the land is beautiful. Ambazonia, land of freedom. You shall live in plenty, meeting our need. And your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation.
Ambazonians have staged demonstrations over the last 3 years, especially in every corner of the globe, calling for the international community to bring La République du Cameroun and Ambazonia to the negotiating table. Now that it is about to happen, the very people who are clamoring for this seem to be saying, not so fast. Here is Willy Bratade on why this is so strange.
The Ambazonian recognition quest is in the throes of a struggle for survival, ever since it was revealed that some of the liberation movements met with and accepted the Swiss government's offer to broker negotiation talks between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. Unfortunately, for a people who for close to 3 years have been screaming all over social media, rallying and demonstrating in front of the United Nations headquarters and some key embassies across the globe in order to draw attention to the atrocity crimes and ongoing genocide in our homeland, it is shocking to see Ambazonians rebuff, attack and denigrate the same thing that they have been praying for. What is worse is that we have mischaracterized the meeting and demonized those who attended it, and in the process are making us look like people who are not ready for prime time. For the aspirational people that we claim to be, whose forebears practiced the kind of democracy that Africa has not seen since, and which we hope to revive in our new country, the cavalier manner with which we trample the democratic principles we claim to cherish underfoot forebodes a country that will not be any different than the one we are fleeing from. Sadly, Ambazonians are very quick to embrace the very things that are antithetical to the values we purport to cherish. Maybe the way we solve this dilemma is by agreeing to and adopting a code of conduct that should guide the actions of every Ambazonian during this delicate period we are going through. It is very important for our civic or political discourse now and in our future country that we agree to a code of conduct or an honor code that is grounded on facts and the truth. A look back at how we found ourselves in this situation reveals that most of the infighting and social media sniping among Ambazonian groups and their leaders revolve around facts and the truth about what happened. So by simply setting a standard that all of us can agree on, one that is based on facts, not opinion, we can have a good starting point. As Mr. Gradgrind in Charles Dickens' Hard Times says, quote, "Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Facts alone are wanted in life. Plant nothing else and root out everything else." End of quote. Since many Ambazonians are Christians, let me also quote the Bible in John chapter 8 verse 32 that says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." So, we can take our cue from there. The U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York, has the following honor code. A cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. And for those who follow American politics, Ronald Reagan famously prescribed an 11th commandment for the Republican Party in 1966 during his campaign for governor of California. Quote, "Thou shalt not speak ill of any fellow Republican." End of quote. Maybe Ambazonians can adopt such a mantra, "Thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Ambazonian," while we are in this struggle for the recognition of our country. If we agree to something like that, we can now focus all our attention on the enemy, work together and appreciate what each of us brings to the fight, cognizant of the fact that none of us can do it alone. Therefore, we should put aside our petty disagreements, egos, and group affiliations and do what is right by Ambazonia. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. My dear Ambazonians, let us heed the words of Dr. King. As for me, I will continue to harp on this issue because the stakes are too high and we cannot continue to be shooting ourselves in the foot while the enemy goes about committing havoc in our land. In the words of the early 20th century African-American poet, Sir Langston Hughes, quote, "Looks like what drives me crazy don't have no effect on you, but I am gonna keep on it till it drives you crazy too." End of quote. This is Willibrod Ade for Ambazonia Calling.
Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out. Our guest on The Devil Unmasked today is no stranger to Ambazonians. He is one of those who speaks truth to power, is fearless in articulating the Ambazonian restoration quest. His name is Abdul Karim Ali. The man is multi-talented. He is a preacher, a student of Islam, and of comparative religion. He is considered one of the very best Muslim scholars of the Bible. He is the top Muslim debater with most regular appearances and the most incisive contributions on media platforms in Cameroon. Born on the 5th of December 1981 in Kumbo, in Bui State of Ambazonia's northern zone, Abdul Karim Ali is a software engineer, a corporate management trainer, and a chief executive of the Institute of Rural Technology. His IT firm has trained hundreds of organizations and created thousands of jobs. He made history in August 2016 when he pulled together about 1,500 Muslims and non-Muslims to help analyze the similarities between Islam and Christianity. Our guest today is the author of dozens of public lectures on topics as diverse as the misconceptions about Islam, the Quran and modern science, women's rights in Islam, the concept of God in the world's major religions. There is a lot more I can say, but let me stop here and give myself both the honor and pleasure to welcome my brother and comrade in the fight, Abdul Karim Ali. Welcome to The Devil Unmasked.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, senior comrade. Let me begin by praising God and ask him to send his blessings upon his prophet, righteous men who have lived, Southern Cameroonians, and my senior comrades like you and others who will be watching us right now.
Thank you very much, my brother. Let me open this by saying you live in the mouth of the lion. How do you do it?
What can I say? I grew up understanding that we should not doubt our beliefs, neither should we believe our doubts. We should have positive energy and thrive in doing right. And I go by the principle that the best lesson in life has been taught by the road sign, which says keep right. And if I could keep right for other things, what about my motherland?
You are doing the right thing, my brother, and keeping right is absolutely the way to go. Where do you think we are now with our restoration quest? Very often you get worried about traveling a long road and you wonder whether you've got the strength in your muscle, in your spirit to take you to the end of the journey. Where do you think we are?
Well, I think by God's grace, we are where we're supposed to be. We couldn't be anywhere else. This is what He designed. But with the little knowledge I have on revolutions, what I've studied, I think Southern Cameroonians have done quite a lot in less than 3 years. Because we're dealing with a 57-year-old and tyrannic regime, and of course, a barbaric ruling president for 37 years, with our brothers who are enablers, traitors, and fence-sitters. So it's not easy. I'll say that we are doing quite well. We are running faster than the devil, and we shall soon get there. We seem to think that this is the only revolution that has crisis as we do have. No. The thing is that of Southern Cameroon is so loud and so visible because we are dealing in a digital age. We seem to have information and communication so fast that whatever we do goes to the other end of the world immediately. It doesn't mean that other revolutions did not have problems. They did. I don't think if Mandela, late Mandela, of course, and his wife were all together in one union during the revolution that would have divorced soon after he was released. I don't think so. So there are problems, and we're working on chewing gum. I want to thank Southern Cameroonians for being here this far. La République du Cameroon is totally cornered, and this is not by chance.
Let's talk a bit about the home front and the diaspora. I think that what we've got here, we've got some great chemistry going. Do you see the relationship working well? Is there something that should be done differently to help coordinate better with the home front, to help the diaspora come out of what sometimes is seen as just endless quarrels amongst ourselves?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to do to enhance and promote a correlation, but it's existing already. I would say that the home front is an extension of the diaspora. You should notice that whenever you quarrel, when I say you, I mean by diaspora, when you do quarrel, you split us into the levels of quarrels that occur. If there are 3 heads fighting, we are also three heads supporting or disagreeing. So I think that Ground Zero, in spite of the fact that they are the fearless ones, as you call them, they are in the lion's den, as you call them, they are paying the price with their blood, with their energy, with insecurity, but the drive is from the diaspora. So I give it back to the diaspora. Whenever they have positive energy, the home front carries all the energy. When they produce negative ones, the home front carries it, but unfortunately, when they do, the adversary takes advantage of this negative energy to harm the public. So yes, the bridge will be communication. If we can bridge communication and really listen to the home front when they make requests, listening does not mean abiding to every single thing that one would have proposed, but I think diaspora needs to start listening and listen very well. We see what happened in Bali. This is not good at all. I think if diaspora listened to some of the home front, it wouldn't have happened. I'll reserve it, but I think someone on the ground alluded to something in that direction, and diaspora did not listen. Diaspora needs to have first-hand intelligence from the home front and work with them.
You gave it to the diaspora, I give it to the home front. You guys are absolutely marvelous. The Devil Unmasked continues right after this musical interlude.
Oh, na 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 na. The cracks. Rastaman are loving. Everybody loving. Rastaman are loving. Everybody loving. Jah bless ya. Rastaman are loving. Everybody loving. Jah bless ya. A woman is a blessing. Teach a better lesson. Jah bless ya. A woman is a blessing. Teach a better lesson. Jah bless ya.
We are back with Abdul Karim Ali on The Devil Unmasked. This is a moment when some of the healing can happen through our unifying forces, our building the cohesiveness, our coming together in spite of the differences, our recognizing what we agree on versus what we disagree on. And it is a moment when basically we cannot blame the Biya regime for not coming to the table or for not showing good faith if we cannot show good faith to each other. How important is it for us, especially on the eve of potentially preliminary talks or preliminary negotiations, for us to get together and build a cohesive front, united as one Ambazonia?
Yeah, because I actually have used this verse of the Bible positively for Southern Cameroons, negatively for La Republic of Cameroon, including when Peter Mapanye Musonge came to Bamenda with his community called, what was that? The Bilingualism Community. Yes. Amos 3:3 says, could two travel together if they be not agreed? I mean, you made a very sound point there, that how can we be expecting the adversary to come to terms of talking to us when we could not talk to ourselves? Where are we going to if we do not agree? I think it's about time for Southern Cameroonians to ask where they are if they really want to know where they were going to, and then we'll decide exactly how to get there. This is the time we must keep ego. We must keep trying to be on that, not only on the table, but at the head of the table, not only in the front seat of the car, but at the wheel. We need to keep those and truly and really unite. I know we are united in purpose. I know there is no Southern Cameroonian frontline leader which I doubt their resolve of going to BOYO. I don't doubt it. I could be mistaken, but we need to unite in purpose. We need to drop our ego. And I want to tell Southern Cameroonians in the diaspora that stagnant water smells. We need to move from where we are and get into the same room with everyone. You know, some people get into the room. There are two kinds of people, in my opinion. They get into the room and say, here I am. And some people get in and say, there you are. I think we should be those who say, there you are. Let's try and get past our egos at this point so that the international community can take us seriously.
You opened up at the beginning there by talking about, enablers, fence sitters, people basically sitting on their hands. We've got some political movements in Ambazonia, some of them created with the purposes of helping our people deliver themselves from this bondage in which we got tangled in 1961. And we've got civil society working, sometimes tearing itself apart because they don't know whether they want federalism or confederation. And I really love your brilliant answer the other day on TV. But what message should be sent to groups like the SDF, which have basically lost their heads in the middle of, I used to lead my people, but I don't know where I'm going right now. And to civil society sometimes that thinks federalism solves a problem, or confederation, as you mentioned the other day.
It's a pity because to me, those are the primary cause of all the blood of our people. I put it in their hands. I put it on both hands of them before even giving it to some fingers of our brothers who are working directly for the regime, like the Atangajis and so on. Yeah, I think the only reason we are where we are, the only reason we are where we are from the point of view of Southern Cameroonians is because of SDF. I watched a video of His Royal Highness Pongojidinga. He's telling us that when they visited the United Nations, they told them that, look, you have a case, but at the same time, you're being represented by your own people in the parliament of a country you say you don't want. It doesn't make sense. And now SDF was created, as you know, for Southern Cameroons. We can spin it today as we want, but it was created to defend the voices of Southern Cameroonians. Yeah, today it's a national political party, as they say, but by and large, the parliamentarians and senators for SDF are from Southern Cameroons. In other words, we voted for them. But today I hear the chairman, Ntumfoyn, is saying that my parliamentarians, my senators, which means they are not ours. We didn't even vote for them. The only reason La République du Cameroon still have their military on us, killing us every day, is because our parents claim they are representing us in the House of Parliament of La République du Cameroon, what they call National Assembly. So yeah, SDF is a big problem, and I hope they realize what history they're writing for themselves. But sometimes I don't want to blame all of the parliamentarians. We have Honorable Weaver who left, and he left. They chased him. They wanted to kill him. They had an order on him. Even SDF did not support him. It doesn't make any impact. Like people will say, it's another guy who joined so-called terrorists, as they call us. But if Ntumfoyn will ask all of them to pack out as a team, that is what makes sense. Just like our parents packed out in 1953. This is how they should pack out. And then for civil societies, most civil societies, what they are doing is they are doing peace jobs, peace businesses. They are creating NGOs on the blood of our people. Some of them, actually, I think they don't know what the Southern Cameroon problems is. So I don't really care about them. They don't matter. But my major problem is SDF. I really don't understand if they know our history and if they were present in Southern Cameroons on the 22nd of September 2017 and 1st of October 2017. History has been written with both red and blue pens. So I think that's much I could say about that, yes.
Let's touch a bit on something here. We're hearing audios calling for people to return to school. We know the issues of insecurity. We hear people go out there and clamor for peace like they want peace more than anyone else. We see some people even think that our people don't have a right to self-defense. I want you to touch on these few things: education, security, the right to self-defense for our people. Any order that you want.
Yeah, self-defense is an international law. That is not only the right to self-defense, the right to carry arms. And as an individual, not to talk of as a people. And the whole world knows that we are people. Karen Bass have recognized that we are people. Germany has recognized that we are people. Switzerland have recognized that we are people. This is why they want to mediate. You don't mediate between one person. You mediate between persons or entities. So they have recognized implicitly that there are two people here talking about this issue. So everybody knows that we have the right to self-defense. And in all honesty, we are self-defending ourselves, because none of us have gone across the borders as per 1916 to attack any family. We are self-defending. So that point could be passed. Let's not waste our time on people who still thinking in a circle.
We will return with The Devil on Mask.
Ramagade legede, oh rabo
Bozantala, Brozagade, Lika Brazandala, Jesus. Papa God, intervene for we, do for we, as you do for the Israelites. The way who they suffer, in the life say you don't forget we. Papa God, intervene for we. Orphans are crying, widows are crying, fatherless children are crying, the less privileged are crying. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray. Oh, northwest and southwest, when I come together, may we pray. Oh, prayer is a key. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray.
We are back with Abdul Karim Ali on The Devil on Mask.
Yeah, talking about school, we have two problems with the school thing. Number one, why the teachers go out? Because our curriculum is not effective, and then our educational system has been infiltrated. That problem has not been fixed. So, do I want my children to go to school? Of course. I have 2 biological children and other 5 children of my brothers all living with me. Do I want education for them? Yes, I want education for them. The question is not, should children go to school? The question should be, can children go to school? Can they go to school? The answer is no, because there is simply no security. Not for traders, not for trekkers, not for pedestrians, not for travelers. And you're talking about students. Little Karin and her sister Melis basically begged La Republique military for their lives, and they were shot in their homes. Have this military pulled out of our territory? No. Do they increase in number? Yes. With what? With armored cars and mounted guns on these vehicles. So are people still being hunted in their homes and killed? Yes. When they attack, can the restoration forces reply in defense? Yes. Is anybody safe when bullets are flying? Their answer is no. So the question is, can children go to school? And my answer is no. Children cannot go to school. Should they go to school? My answer is yes, if there is security. And there is no security.
There's a big role here that the international community can play. Obviously, in most conflict regions, one of the first things that happens when you want the violence to stop, and this was the main point we heard from the UN Security Council hearing, the violence needs to stop. We heard repeatedly from every member of the Security Council. The way you stop violence is you deploy peacekeepers, you create a buffer zone, and you get the offensive or the attacking, the occupation forces to withdraw. Is there a bigger role that the international community has just dropped the ball on? What should they do?
Yeah, actually, as an individual, I'll tell this to the face of the international community. There have been hypocrites here. They are committing a fallacy known as appealing to ignorance, or what you call tukukui, which is appealing to hypocrisy. They know who the oppressor is. They know who the invasion force is. So who are they asking to stop violence? They need to come in and stop the oppressor. And the oppressor here is La Republique du Cameroon. Where is the war? In southern Cameroon. Is the war at La Republique? No. So who has crossed borders? La Republique du Cameroon. So they need to come in and do what they formed the organization for. They need to come in with all their forces and authority that they have and stop La Republique du Cameroon. They need to ask La Republique du Cameroon to cease fire, because who also drew first blood? La Republique du Cameroon. So you can ask someone defending to stop violence. I'm defending punches, and you ask me to stop? No. So you need to ask the person throwing the punches to stop. So I think the international community, with all respect to them, they are being hypocritical here. I think they know what to do if they want to stop violence. They have to stop violence. We want them to stop violence. Dr. Ndeli said that La Republique du Cameroon is a blazing fire and Nigeria is a deep blue sea. From that day, we've been talking, and people like you here, my senior brother, have been talking. We've not been talking because we want to fight. The only reason we are fighting now is because we want to talk. So we want to talk, but someone is fighting. So they need to ask the person fighting to stop.
that we are totally on the same page on that one. And talking about talking, there is now maybe the beginnings of some preliminary negotiations or setting of the stage, mandating the government of Switzerland to put in place a process, begin a process that will allow people to determine the way in which they come to the table, how they meet La République du Cameroun, how they confront this issue and deal with it. What is your position about our people working on this negotiated settlement with a third party mediating and the international community watching?
Yeah, but this is what we've been fighting for. We've not been talking to fight. We're just defending ourselves now simply because we want someone to hear us. So I want to advise Southern Cameroonians to stop analyzing and making conclusions on surface value. When we hear stuff, and the Quran is very clear on that, on chapter number 43, it says that when you hear something and you don't understand it, ask those who know. Ask those who know. I'll call on Southern Cameroonians to have the patience on talking to those who went to Switzerland for whatever they went for before making conclusions. I think it is very important that we have a recognition. And I said implicitly, the mere fact that Switzerland is coming up to say, I want to mediate, the question is, what do you mediate for? You mediate between people. So I think it's very important. What we must do, we must not go on that table from any point of weakness. We should not go on that negotiating table with fear, and we should not be afraid also to negotiate. And this brings us back to the first thing you asked me, unity. I want all Southern Cameroonians who are supposed to be on the table to be on that table. I want all Southern Cameroonians who are supposed to be marshalling ideas and efforts right now to be marshalling ideas and efforts right now towards that table. We should not scatter our efforts. I think we should bring them together. And this is the time. I think it's a good call. And I trust my elders and senior comrades who are, for the time being, representing us. And I think they're going to do a good job. It's a good call.
Don't go anywhere. The Devil on Mask continues after this musical interlude.
Oh, nah. Oh, nah, the cracks again. Oh, nah, baby, my love for you, nah, baby girl, I say with you, I'm just surprised. My love for you, girl, I know if it take you out of sight. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. I do anything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. Everything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. I do for you. I do anything for you, eh. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh.
We are back with Abdul Karim Ali on The Devil on Mask. Let's talk a bit about the governance of our revolution. Some of the most painful things that we have gone through, besides losing parents and losing friends and comrades in arms who've had to defend our territory, has been to see the extent to which, some levels of this revolution have been mismanaged. And I'm talking sometimes about the money. We have seen just a shameful management of the resources of this revolution. And in addition, we've just seen a level of callousness in which our people treat people who are in public service. We see things like impeachment, the targeting of civilians. What is the extent to which these things worry you?
I think this is a very difficult question for me for two reasons. Number one, I am not a politician, and I am trying not to get into politics in this revolution. And secondly, I don't have so much information to arrive at any conclusions. But I saw the allegations regarding my trip to BOYO, for example, and also the long process of auditing and the results of the audit, which to me, I was somewhat, with my little knowledge in management, that audit report was okay. I wouldn't say great, it was okay. So I say, look, none of us prepared a revolution, and none of us are angels. And the Prophet Muhammad said, all the children of Adam make mistakes and they are sinners. But the best of those children are those who repent. In other words, the best of a mistake is he who recognizes the mistake, apologizes for it, and move ahead. So I think, again, it's up to you guys at the diaspora to fix things, and let's move on. And talking about the impeachment, my position is that Sisi Kwari is my interim president, and Dr. Saku is the AIP right now. I don't want to get into all those drama. And then now we thought, yeah, how much effect does it have? Yeah, it's hurting ground zero. It's hurting ground zero. It was during all this period that John Gote was able to come to southern Cameroon and all those things that have happened, and many more soldiers are losing their lives because of all this. Southern Cameroonians on the ground zero now have a lot of splits. Also the divide has extended here. People quarrel over social media on things they barely understand. So I think, yes, it's a difficult moment for us. And again, the diaspora should deal with the political side of the revolution. And we, on the ground, we want to focus on the revolution. And we are calling on diaspora to come back home to the revolution.
Let me turn to one subtopic here, which I think you are the best guy to address. We have seen in the most shameful way what I've considered just provocations of a religious type. People, criminals, have taken advantage of this revolution, have done some horrible things. We know that some people are lurking there in the dark, trying to stir up religious differences and bring conflict to the fore. We've seen the shameful things that unfolded in Womb, and we were amazed at the spirit of our people when we saw them come together, Muslim and non-Muslim, Boro descent and non-Boro descent, and say to each other, I am sorry, my brother, this should not have happened. I think you are one of the most powerful people to send a message to our communities that are centered around religion, around God, about the kind of tolerance that they need to show. But speak to your people about what they should do when they see this kind of devil show its head.
Sure. This would be maybe the 10th time I'm doing it, and it's something worth saying it over and over. I have done documentations. I've also spoken to imams and so on. This is what, like you said, we will not deny the fact that thieves and criminals infiltrated, or they are still infiltrating the revolution. But what is much more peculiar is for the Muslims to recognize that it would be stupid for me, Abdul Karim, to sit here today and say that a Christian or a non-Muslim, for example, doesn't want a Muslim in southern Cameroon. It will be very insane. The Boro people moved to Womb somewhere 1950s to 60. I'm talking about this particular settlement in Menchum. It's just a few years before independence.
Okay.
Yeah, but Awusas, for example, those old times, they've been there, they predate the Germans. But again, even the Awusas who predate the Germans migrated and met people. They met the indigenous, they met the Manchum people. So now, let's say Muslims now altogether, 1850, this is close to a century and a half. So for all this period, the indigenous of these places gave us land, allow us to build mosques, allow us to do whatever we want in terms of culture and religion, gave us land to graze animals, and they had no problem with us. They didn't chase us. It's only now, it's today, that they will fight against a Muslim population. I say people have to think and be sincere. It would be a shame for me to think that way. This clearly states that it's a plot, it's a plan to bring two people against one another. And we could even see by the actions of the military of La Republique, when these few Boro guys were upset, these Muslims, they took stakes to attack armed men as they claim, and the military was encouraging them. Can't you see it's a plot? I think it's a big plot. So I want to tell Muslims that Islam is the most, is the religion, in my opinion, that preaches tolerance. I'm not saying that Muslims are tolerant, but Islam, the Quran, and the story we get from Prophet Muhammad is the most tolerant religion of all times. I'll give examples. We have chapter 112 of the Quran, which is the touchline of theology, as scholars put it. It's a definition of God. This chapter was revealed because Prophet Muhammad had a deputation of Christians who visited him in Medina. He didn't have a guest house. He didn't even have a house on his own. So he offered his mosque for them to stay there for 3 days. Because initially, in those ages, in the medieval age, when you have visitors, you need to give them rest for 3 days before you can engage them in conversation. They were there for 3 days, 3 nights, and on the 3rd day, they said, well, it's Sunday, we want to pray. He said, carry on and pray in my mosque. They did pray in his mosque. And then the meeting began. They asked him, okay, now Muhammad, we've heard you are preaching about this Allah, that. Who is Allah to you? Who is God? And then the revelation comes to him, Kul Huwallahu Ahad. Say He's Allah one and only, Allahu Samad, Allah the eternal and absolute. Lam yalid, He begets not, wa lam yulad, and no one begets Him, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad, and there is nothing like unto Him. The reply to who God is was given to Christians. This is Islam. Our Prophet gave Christians his mosque for them to stay in and pray. That is just one example, and that to me, that is the height of tolerance. And we're told in the Quran chapter 2 verse 256, la ikraha fid din, there is no compulsion in religion. Elsewhere we are told, lakum dinukum waliya din, your religion is yours and mine is mine. In other words, there is no need to fight anyone because of their religion. So Muslims must realize this, but most importantly, they must open their hands and their eyes and see clearly that the people of Southern Cameroon who are not Muslims have been extremely peaceful to the people of Southern Cameroon who are Muslims, especially in MENCHUM. They have never had any conflict, but now the question is, why now? So my advice to myself and to other Muslims and to non-Muslims, we should all know that when Paul Biya came out on the 30th of November 2017 and announced war, declared war on us, he didn't say it was for Christians or Muslims. He announced war on the people of Southern Cameroon. We are all in it. That is why they are killing both Muslims and Christians. We all need to put our heads together and fight a common enemy. Let's not allow anyone put us in a pawn of religious conflicts, which does not exist and will never exist. I'm sure you and I, sir, will not allow for such to exist. Southern Cameroon, in my opinion, is a secular state, and we're going to promote a lot of interfaith dialogues, a lot of comprehensive educations for both religions. There is no need for infighting amongst ourselves, talk less of religious conflicts.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I grew up, I'm born in Kom in BOYO state. I grew up there, and I was amazed to see that, as I grew up, the Fundong Valley is Muslim, majority Muslim, and Jinikam Valley is majority Catholic, and Belo Valley is majority Protestant. And we've never had a problem, and we won't succeed in planting a problem amongst our people. We've got more on the Devil on Mask right ahead. Don't go anywhere.
The cracks, yeets on the beat. Mon joli bébé, tu es belle, African baby. If you do me well, I go do you well. If you do me well, I go do you well. When I hustle get galon, I go open your salon. I go take you, go come, you go see like come. Small, walk a freaking go turn me na patron. Small, walk a freaking go turn me na patron. I love you. My baby more, I love you. My baby more. Even if I enter Fungata, I go dash so come out. Because of money, them say I be uncapable. As we see we so, our love will be unbreakable. Love my baby, this one I don't know. Love my baby, this one I don't know.
We are back with Abdul Karim Ali on the Devil on Mask. Let me try and close here. I think I can keep you here for days, basically. I would want you to come back every Sunday. I know you've got other things to do. So let me ask you to just give a general advice to Ambazonians, one last message before we close down our interview.
Yeah, let me begin with my diaspora. I think I want to, first of all, thank the diaspora. I recognize the hard work they go through. With the little information I have, I recognize the sacrifices they have made and they are making. I recognize the fact that even those I consider to be egoistic or to be selfish, I recognize the fact that the intent is good. People simply think I have the best route to Boya, I have the shortest way, the easiest way. I recognize all that. But my appeal, not really an advice, is that we must realize that we are dealing with a very fierce regime, and we are stronger together than as individuals. We are better as a people, especially in the eyes of the international community, than a group. A group really can't take us to Boya, but we can all travel to Boya. And to ground zero, we must be vigilant, and we must pay attention to communications, and we must choose what sources to take communications from. So that also links back to diaspora. We must have, we must give ground zero a clear-cut medium or media for communication, one that does not contradict our leadership or our frontliners. We need such cohesion. And then generally now, this is what I want to say for Southern Cameroonians. This is war that has been declared on us. And I think right now, I'll use a scenario of a football match, soccer match. We have scored some goals against the adversary. And it's somewhere around the 85th minute in the match. And we're tired. We're tired. What we can do, we can reserve our energy to ensure that we don't allow the adversary score some goals in our pool, because they may get to an equal level with us, they may level up the scores, or even score past us. That's what they're trying to do. So we must take note and realize that in every war, whether it is declared on you or not declared on you, there are rules of engagement. We should avoid anything that has to do with religious authorities and personalities. We should safeguard them, we should protect them. We should protect all the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, and the temples. Anywhere where God's name is being mentioned should be protected by the restoration forces. We should not harm the women and children, no matter what. We must avoid engaging women and children. We must not harm the aged, women or men. We must not poison wells, and we must not cut down trees, especially economic trees. We have to do this. We must pay attention to ourselves, lest we give the enemy the reasons they are looking for. I think then, of course, let me use the same things I used while I began. We should not doubt our belief or believe our doubt. We should trust in our cause that is embedded in truth and it's God ordained, and we should hope for the best while expecting challenges. I think for an advice, this much I can say.
I could not have had better advice to share with Ambazonians. I thank you very much, Abdul Karim Ali, for joining Ambazonia Calling today as the guest on The Devil on Mask. It was a wonderful pleasure to have you, and thank you for doing what you do on the ground. Please continue with the work you're doing, and count on us in the diaspora to continue to do our part.
Thank you for having me, Senior Comrade Bo. Thank you, sir.
Our youth demo, they can't finish. Our boys demo, they don't finish. From Manfred to Boya, from Bamenda to Southwest, no shade every day, oh, killing every day. People they die every day, like say they been a chicken. My people prayer is the key. Oh, may we pray, oh. Make we pray, oh, make we pray, make we pray, oh, make we pray, make we pray. Ramagade, legede, oh, Ramosagala, Rosagade, make we pray, Mika Razandala, Jesus, make we pray.
Some are doing rounds on social media, telling people that Canadian and German parliamentarians will provide mediation in the war between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroun. Not true, according to this analysis by Divine J.
Any country and any individual, even those grossly unqualified to play the role, can offer to be mediator in a war or crisis. Ni John Frundi of the opposition SDF offered to be a mediator in the war in the Cameroons. Last week, stories on social media said Canadian and German parliamentarians had stated their wish to mediate. Those opposed to the Swiss-led process started doing backflips, praising the two offers, totally oblivious of the fact that it is not the legislature but the executive that decides foreign policy in each of those countries. Recognizing the limitations of the U.S. Congress in making foreign policy, Representative Karen Bass disqualified the USA as a good mediator/guarantor. In stating their wish, German MPs invited the German Chancellor Angela Merkel to travel to and engage Cameroon by making a real offer. Ambazonians should not allow themselves to be misled. The only third-party mediation offer that is now on the table is the Swiss-led process. It is widely supported by the international community, which will not renege on their commitments to support Switzerland. This is a lesson that every Ambazonian should know by heart from real politics. The world won't roll over just to please the hard to satisfy in the ranks of our people. The world will, in Ambazonia as elsewhere around the world, work with what is called the coalition of the willing. Those who choose to be spoilers will be free to do as they please. The search for a completely neutral country will never be successful because there is no such thing as a perfectly neutral country to serve as mediator. Our job is to ensure that the negotiations work for what we seek and that our leaders and negotiating team do not sign onto any deal that falls short of outright independence for our homeland. In other words, our destiny is in our hands, not in the hands of the mediator. La République has never wanted even to dialogue, talk less of negotiating. Even when dialogue was ordered by a court ruling in the Gambia, La République hates the fact that they are now under the gun to bring their butt to the negotiating table. They will cut and run if the international community were not already at the table. The job of Ambazonians today is to make the Swiss-led process be the equivalent of the comprehensive peace agreement whose implementation by the United Nations culminated in the independence of South Sudan in July 2011. We cannot be asking for a little more time, as did Honorable John Gould Foncha in the late 1950s or early 1960s, leading to the cursed annexationist posture in which we have found ourselves over the last 58 years. This is Divine Angie for Ambazonia Calling.
So get on now on the train, everybody. Get on now on the train. Mothers, fathers, get on now on the train. Children, get on now on the train. Sister, brothers, get on now on the train. Husbands, wives too, get on now on the train. Oh, Abba, Father, bless us. Oh, Jesus Christus, guide us. Oh, Holy Spirit, lead us on the restoration journey of our liberty. So, restoration train is our freedom train.
The calls for school resumption in September came out of Nkonengi prison this week, with none other than the father of the coffin revolution himself, Mancho BBC, using the lingo of Mboko to call for that return to school in September. Tanyi Judagwa Ozugan has been listening to that message and doesn't seem to like it very much.
Mancho BBC and his inmate Ngalim claim in an audio from GA that they are the ones who went around closing down schools and imposing a boycott of schools. First, the claim is blatantly false. The campaigners were the teachers and parent-teacher associations. Mancho BBC and his pals were worried that there were no roads, no garbage collection, no pipe-borne water in homes. They complained that it was too expensive to rent a market stall. Mancho practices revisionism in that audio. He takes credit for other people's work. If no one tells BBC that this is inaccurate, the next thing we are likely to hear him say is that he was the one who went to the University of BOYO to cause the students to be beaten out of the hostels and dragged in mud so that they could abandon the campus. If no one fact-checks Mancho BBC, they will soon say the students who were taken out of their hostels and shot dead in Bambili were killed by the coffin revolution as part of their campaign to cause the University of Bamenda to close down. Even Senator Penn Terence, who was a teacher and one of the key persons mobilizing the strike, has not made such a claim. Deacon Wilfred Tassang has made no such claim. But Mancho BBC wants the world to know that he did it. You lie, Mancho BBC. You did not do it, and you know it yourself. So cut the crap, please. Secondly, Mancho does not need to claim credit for the school boycott in order to advocate a return to school. This is not the first time that a campaign to return to schools has been linked to Mancho BBC. That means that the first two times Mancho was accused had to be true. Poor Ambazonians could not believe Mancho would do such a thing, which means Mancho BBC has not just caught this virus. It is a disease he has been suffering from for a little while. There is only one cure for the virus. It is for students, parents, and teachers to prove that Mancho BBC is dreaming and has lost touch, as it happens to some people behind bars. This is one of the reasons no one should try to run the revolution from behind bars. Mancho BBC's call for the resumption of schools in September is an attempt to run the revolution from behind bars, and Mancho BBC should know better. Mancho is the one who taught fellow Ambazonians that we should bring our own coffins to this revolution. We have followed Mancho's example, and we have brought our coffins to the fight against the recolonization of Ambazonia. If Mancho BBC thinks he can help La Republique restart colonial schools in Ambazonia, he should first make sure to put all of us in our coffins, because schools will resume over our dead bodies. This is Tani Jude Agua Ozugen for Ambazonia Calling.
Drum roll, please. And welcome to our Nyamfoka of the Week segment. We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfoka of the Week. We've come to that time on the show again when the queens and kings of foolish for this week need to be reviewed and to be crowned. Here is Veronique Ntumfoyn.
Finishing in third place this week is a lobbyist on the U.S. Capitol. Certainly, she has a job to do. A job much like the one soldiers of the colonizers think they have committing genocide in Ambazonia. They think it's just another day in the office. All in a day's work last week, Sylvie Bello did her job in support of the Satanic Republic of Cameroon. Yaoundé probably pays her handsomely, preferably with banknotes soaked in the blood of the over 10,000 Ambazonians slaughtered by colonial Cameroon. This week, Sylvie Bello facilitated an event on Capitol Hill set up to downplay or deny the genocide unfolding in Ambazonia. The goal of the session was to mistake the forest, the genocide, for the trees, the manufactured religious war supposedly unfolding between Christians and Muslims in Ambazonia, and the non-existent ethnic cleansing of Ambazonians of Mbororo descent by fellow Ambazonians of non-Bororo descent. Fellow Ambazonian Milan Atam served as an accessory to the cover-up effort. But it is Sylvie Bello who wins this week's third place on the crown of shame, the Nyamfoka of the Week.
Nyamfoka them all.
In the position of runners-up this week is a man who must by now be taking great pride in doing foolish, week in and out. You must have guessed, but Digimas has done this thing again. Not only does he think he can intimidate the Ambazonia Calling team, he has been devoting time to try the stupid macho thing about yours truly. It takes a man without balls and obviously without a skull to think of every woman only as an object of sexual pleasure. Realizing that the mere mention of Digimas in this competition gives him an orgasm, we are this week again giving a fool the treat he seems to adore. Digimas is this week again the second place finisher for the crown of shame, the Nyamfoka of the Week.
Nyamfoka them all.
The crown of shame will remain this week again in the hands of another one of the thousands of slaves in uniform under the monster Paul Biya, who is willing to kill anyone in order to preserve what they perceive to be power. On a trip to slaughter more Ambazonians, which this week took him to BOYO, capital of Ambazonia,
one of Yaoundé's most wicked army generals. So wicked, his nickname, even amongst his peers, is Bad Boy. General René Claude Meka, Chief of Staff of the Occupation Forces in Ambazonia, came to encourage colonial forces to accelerate the massacre of Ambazonians in the hundreds of human slaughterhouses they have built in every one of the 13 states of Ambazonia. For boasting about the mass slaughter of Ambazonians, René Claude Meka, also known as Bad Boy, is this week's winner of the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Nyamfuka them all.
This is Veronique Vetimfe for Ambazonia Calling.
It started like a joke and I smiled. From Meme to Momo, we said no violence. Now I know not how to smile, 'cause my loved ones are gone. There is no place to call home. Our homes have been burnt. I am homeless in my homeland. There is no place to call my home. Homeless, homeless, homeless in my homeland. When are we going to have a dialogue? We have buried more than enough. Nothing heals the past like time. When are we going to have a dialogue? We've been marginalized enough. You may fool some people sometime. You cannot fool them all the time. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my home.
The information being provided by NGOs and journalists and other campaigners on the closure of schools and the boycott of schools in Ambazonia is distorted. Professor Carlson Anyangwe says in this paper delivered in studio by Willie Brotade that the new self-proclaimed champions of back to school are hypocrites.
All this newfound advocacy for schools resumption evidently lacks sincerity. It is a studied advocacy. Contrary to the distorted impression being conveyed to the uninformed, Ambazonia has really never been a total desert schools-wise, since there are oases of schooling here and there. The foreign and local NGOs and journalists suddenly crusading for schools resumption are not doing so out of altruism, and would be hard put to deny the charge of hypocrisy and self-interest. Entities and persons who have never raised the finger about the education problem in all its ramifications and for decades in Ambazonia cannot credibly overnight have undergone a road to Damascus conversion and proclaim themselves the God-sent apostles of education. Most telling is the fact that our self-anointed education resumption champions have not even been able to think through the matter to its logical conclusion. Education is not just about children congregating in some four-room structure or under a tree or some flimsy contrivance. Education demands trained and salaried teachers. It demands proper curriculum and good content. It demands an environment conducive for studies. It demands resources. It is amazing that those pretending to be concerned about schools reopening have failed to advert their minds to the matter of fees and other costs that the schools reopening necessarily entails. If these apostles are sincere, their advocacy should have gone in tandem with advocacy for free education, provision of free uniforms and textbooks, and school meals and school transport, given the generalized poverty of the generality of our people. Since this legitimate call is not part of the reopening of schools advocacy, one is bound to wonder whether this is not a ploy to extort money from the poor by taking unconscionable advantage of parents' commitment to educate their children. The advocates for school resumption have not identified in each area which schools the children are expected to attend, since in some areas schools have been burnt down by French Cameroon troops. They have not told us anything about schools for our IDPs and refugee children. Surely, schools' resumption must be made of sterner stuff. By Professor Carlson Anangwe, read in studio by Willibrod Ade for Ambazonia Calling.
Prisoner 46664. Hey, lily. Prisoner 46664.
Is Ambazonia a she or a he? Stay tuned. We've got an answer ahead.
It's just a moment in time.
When the War of Independence will be over in Ambazonia, the new nation will need serious rehabilitation of broken down infrastructure, major programs of reconstruction, similar to the Marshall Plan, which the World Bank funded for the reconstruction of Europe after World War II, will be launched. The jobs of the immediate future in Ambazonia will be in those areas of reconstruction and rehabilitation, and the boycott of formal education at this moment can be a blessing in disguise. Here is the monk from Ibali Kumato on the need for Ambazonians and Ambazonian parents to focus on apprenticeship and home-based trade schools.
Ambazonian parents and students should not waste this period of sabbatical from formal education. While formal education is shut down, this is the time, we believe, for parents and students to turn to informal as well as technical education. In anticipation of the millions of jobs that will become available once Ambazonia's independence is recognized, parents need, while waiting for the school boycott to end, to encourage their children to use the time wisely. Ambazonia will have hundreds of thousands of jobs in order to reconstruct the hundreds of villages that the occupation forces have burned down. Ambazonia will need hundreds of thousands of plumbers, electricians, carpenters, welders to rebuild the homes razed down by colonial Cameroon forces. We will need hundreds of thousands of young men and women working in the construction and paving of new, better and improved roads, in building new and broader streets, in building drainage systems, water dams, irrigation systems, in building new airports in places like Bisongabang, Kambe, Way. We will need tens of thousands of workers building the embassies of every country in the world in Ambazonia. Hundreds of thousands of Ambazonian young men and women who are out of school should enroll in courses as diverse as improving their skills in culinary arts, in the beauty industry sector, in tailoring, in specializing in a sporting discipline, for example, in picking up skills as a mechanic, in learning survival skills that could become very handy in the future police and armed forces of Ambazonia, along with our future fire departments. If there is nothing else to learn, Ambazonian children need to focus on learning English. Any family can organize English classes for our children. The better the English they speak and write, the better they will do in school when they finally open. So let no one tell you schools are not going on in Ambazonia. Let's get the informal schools running at full throttle, because Ambazonia will be developed not by those our parents call the long crayons, not those empty big book people who call themselves elites, but by the army of hard-working citizens willing to roll up their sleeves and get dirty in the business of building Mother Ambazonia. This is the monk from Ibali Kumato for Ambazonia Calling.
The Republic of Cameroon has found and used 1,000,001 ways to mask the fact of annexation of Ambazonia. But as Emmanuel Agbo reports from Norway, they could try a zillion ways. The world will not be fooled.
La République du Cameroon tried to say the Ambazonian problem was an internal crisis in their own indivisible country. They failed. Then they claimed the problem did not even exist. They failed. They tried to bribe us. Those attempts failed. They burned our people alive in their homes. Instead, we rose. They have touched hundreds of our villages. Yet, it is the flame of our revolution that burns brighter. They tried to veil what is a failed decolonization problem, but failed. They called us terrorists, but the world laughed at their foolishness. They created gangs to kidnap, torture, and take ransom in order to give us a bad name, but the world did not buy their lies. Now they are bringing new tactics to the old failed approach. They are now trying to paint the genocide as a Muslim-Christian conflict, and they are failing big time. They want the world to believe we don't want peace and don't want education for our children, but the world knows better. They tried to pretend our people were opposed to a negotiated settlement as a ploy to justify the ongoing genocide, but we called their bluff. La République is on the ropes with nowhere to hide. Ambazonians must unleash a Twitter storm, bringing news of the genocide to every corner of the earth. Go to Twitter. Become a Twitter warrior. Don't just talk to ourselves on WhatsApp and Facebook. The world lives on Twitter, and it is there that telling the accurate story of our journey from Egypt, Cameroon to the promised land of Ambazonia begins. La République may have guns and big bags of money enough to bury every Ambazonian, yet we will not surrender, not until we reach BOYO. And above all, let's unify our efforts and build cohesion across our groups, for unity is the real nuclear weapon in our arsenal. This is Emmanuel Agbo from Norway for Ambazonia Calling.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials. And now to the inaugural edition of our new segment, Big Mob Corner. Nafrida listened to arguments by two activists, Capo Daniel and Eric Tato, and here is a smackdown at Big Mob Corner.
Everybody should do everything in their possibility so that this revolution succeeds. But to stand on the fact that our leader has to be in jail is a misnomer. We are sorry that these people are in jail. We pity their condition and we need to help them come out of there. If anybody wants to negotiate with Seseko, let them send him out of jail. Otherwise, Mendoza would have been ruling CRTV from jail. Why do we want to stick on people in jail to be our leaders? There is something fishy about Seseko having an office, headed paper, in a jail where they didn't even want us to know before that he was there. La République will not choose our leaders. If they want Seseko, whom we love very much, to intercede between La République and Ambazonia, let them release Seseko and his group. We cannot have our leader in jail. When Nelson Mandela was in jail, there were people outside working for him. When he came out of jail, he took the torch. It's going to be the same. I don't know why we think backwards. It is unreasonable. Who made Tato the spokesman for our revolution? It's not his revolution. Why does Eric think that he should be the one they should report to? I am so surprised that Eric Tato speaks to us as if he's speaking to his children. Let me tell you, I have to let you know. No, you are not, you are arrogant. If you want us to understand you, pull yourself together and say it in good words. It's easy to say this may not be true and to say this is a lie. These are two different ways of saying the same thing. It's how civilized people speak. Tato, you have some points, but you talk like an illiterate. You are speaking to people who have gone through thick and thin. If you want to quit, you can quit. You are not indispensable. Nobody is indispensable in this revolution. People are down there killing, they are being killed, they are dying. Children, innocent people in Biami have been killed, children are burned. The 3 months old Martha is dead. Mami Nkwakwa was burned. And you people sit here in your luxurious houses and you think that you can just talk about this revolution? Go down there and get a gun and go stay in the bush and fight. The people in ground zero, kudos to you. Let these people who are fighting here come down there and go 2 days without eating like you go in ground zero. And then they can come here and stop this rubbish. There is too much infighting in this house. Let us get to Boya. We're going to settle it there. Like Foncha, Indeli, Tumaza, all those people, they settled it. We are going to settle it there in the election box. The power of argument. So I think that we are going astray by fighting for the stick and letting the snake run away. Let us put our hands together on the stick and kill the snake together. We have one snake to kill. It's not ourselves. We have the same goal. But let's have a united front. I speak like somebody who was at the plebiscite table, who saw the voting go on, who saw Ahijo come in with those gendarmes and marched on the field in Boya, and it rained that day, cats and dogs. And I have been locked up because of this thing. So when you people keep messing around and think that you are the authors of this revolution, you are damn wrong. You better pull yourself together. This is Frida for Ambazonia Calling.
Since the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffered violence. Let the violent one takes it by force. Show on the ground king. Boom. You the cry, about what the cry. Don't tire, about what why. Women are the crying, crying. We are the crying, crying. About what they crying, crying. We the crying. Republic una free. Amango today inside pay you know the free. We president on the side say all my mafia. Grand ambition, fuck that slogan, no yay. Presido, the pay jaga jaga. Una take all in the week for scatter. They need 102 students for Senate address. Una select 2 Anglophones, escape address. Bia, young, Dijon, prison. Escape who know why man show BBC they for prison. They don't tell all we then start for colors Anglophones. Fuck up the government, we ain't tools. Minister for communication, no fit talk good English. Southern Cameroon independence, that's my wish. No good third roads, no seaports, no light, no water, no airports. President, you overget fake promises. Wait till happen, failing us, you bring us diseases. But men are the cry, we are the ask why. You don't come for that chair, you don't go shake, you go die. Men are the crying, crying. We are the crying, crying. About what they crying, crying. We the crying. Una free me, but men are the crying, crying. We are the crying, crying. We the crying. Una free me.
We know not what the logic is for defining certain countries as male and others as female. Who decides what gender any country has? What criteria do they use to ascribe gender to a country? And why do people agree to abide by the designated gender? These are questions that bother some of us who have been thinking about what to call Ambazonia. Is Ambaland a he or a she? That is a question we posed to Anintam on only her second assignment on Ambazonia Calling.
This is a fun exercise, but one that we are embarking on to help determine the gender of Ambazonia. Before we get there, let me begin with America, also known as the land of the free and of the brave. America is a he. One of its nicknames, Uncle Sam, leaves no one in doubt to the fact that America is not an auntie. France, for example, is a she. Do you want to know how I know? Well, the French themselves call their country La France, using the feminine indefinite article in French. England is another she country. How else? It would have been hard to ascribe a male gender to a country run by a queen. So I will not waste time arguing the obvious. England is female, full stop, end of story. Colonial Cameroon, on the other hand, has to be a transgender country. This is what happens to a country when a foreign traveler from Portugal can impose the name of shrimps, in other words, me njanga or crayfish, on a whole country and its people. It would have been more Cameroonian to name the country Cocoyam or Cassava Republic, certainly not Janjamoto Republic. Transgender is a gender when the world catches up to naming transgender nations. For the time being and based on my research, Cameroon is a he. Our neighbors say of their country that it is their fatherland, even if the French refer to the barbarism in the anthem. The English translation of that anthem by an Ambazonian, Dr. Bernard Fonlong, saved them by referring to Shrimpland as fatherland. So yes, colonial Cameroon is male. But the reason I invited you all to have fun with me on this paper is because I would like to settle the question of gender for Ambazonia. Is Ambazonia a he or a she? That is the question. Our neighbors in colonial Cameroon point out that Ambazonia is attached to La République on the map like a beautiful woman's well-rounded behind. The Honorable Mola Njoli Tumbe says of the non-existent union between Ambazonia and La République that it was a MENCHUM marriage or a come-stay arrangement, which in my opinion settles the debate on the gender of Ambazonia. So here is my verdict. Africa's soon-to-be recognized 55th sovereign nation, Ambazonia, is a girl. So viva Mother Ambazonia. This is Annie Ntam, reporting from Bonn for Ambazonia Calling.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, I heard you have taken ill again, seriously ill, to the point that an emergency medical plane was radioed into Angola to take care of the wahala. As our people will say, lucky you, Joshua. An emergency plane can be rushed in at someone else's expense, at the taxpayer's bill. When you call in an emergency medical plane, what do you think happens to the millions of Sardinars who cannot buy Nevaquin to treat malaria? Because even on life-saving Nevaquin, you are fixed astronomical custom duties. Where have you kept your conscience these last 4 decades to have watched in callous indifference as millions have bled to death after accidents on the graveyards that you call roads, simply because there are no ambulances to rush the injured to hospitals, no roadside assistance to prevent life-threatening bleeding from injury, and with the only facilities bearing the name of hospital functioning a little worse than mortuaries, citizens of Njanga Republic have nowhere to go. But you have an entire hospital you can call up on board a plane, and you can fly off to Paris, or is it to Geneva? I thought they drove you away from there. During 4 decades of reign, you built the place where your fellow Cameroonese now go to die, and you pompously baptize them with the high-sounding title of referral hospitals. How about you refer yourself to La Quintini right now, instead of calling in an emergency medical plane? Go to where the mother with the twins was operated with a kitchen knife outside the hospital building. There is no escaping the dead route you have paved for yourself, Joshua. The other monsters in neighboring countries who committed the same levels of criminal negligence got paid in their own coin. Let me refer only to a few of them. Eyadema was being evacuated to France after having a stroke when death snatched his life over the desert, overflying the Republic of Niger. You remember that? Omar Bongo jumped on a plane when he took terminally ill but could not make it to his preferred hospital in France. Mobutu Sese Seko of the former Zaire jumped on a plane as well, headed for Spain, but failed to make it to his favorite hospital. Well, before you follow in the footsteps of Eyadema, Mobutu, Omar Bongo, and co., before you take your own plane of no return, the biggest emergency, even more important than your health, is the need to put an end to the genocide of Ambazonians. The voodoo priest you consulted and who tricked you into believing that the blood of the people slain in Ambazonia will buy you more time on earth scammed you into a famla that does not work. When your time is up, Joshua, your time is up, emergency medical planes notwithstanding. But as I was going to say before I was rudely forced to talk about your plane of no return, there is no hiding place from what the world has commandeered you to tackle as your number one priority. So tell your minister of lies and propaganda and your spin doctors on CR television to quit misrepresenting the purpose of the ongoing visit to Cameroon of the Swiss government delegation. The Swiss are not in the Cameroon to help you restore peace. Rather, they are there to serve you notice anew that the international community cannot wait to slam sanctions against your regime unless you bring your butt to the negotiating table. You can run, but you cannot hide, Joshua. You had better put together your team for the third-party mediated negotiations without preconditions under the Swiss-led process, or you can get ready to face the music of sanctions from the United Nations Security Council, as well as from the Congress of the United States, the German Bundestag, the Canadian Parliament as well. And wait for it, even the French are looking forward to slamming you with sanctions. It don't bad. Even Paris has had enough. That is why France is ejecting pronto its ambassador to Bread and Sardine Republic. Paris is putting an end to any more military support being provided to the hawks of war around Kunkuma. Given France's bad faith and thirst for Ambazonian blood, we will see before we believe. What is not in doubt anymore is the fact that the international community and the international pressure on Janga Republic is such that a very important bishop and a former African head of state will be in Gola by the end of next week to let you, Nkunkuma, know that the world has run out of patience. The only thing that can save you from facing the music is taking that plane of no return and kicking the bucket on the way. It is indeed a miserable world for whom the bell tolls.
From our studios here in Washington, D.C., our producer is Jeff McCoy. Our music today is from Ken Wanaku, the monk from Balikumato, William Ford, an ambassador of blessed memory, Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and Prince Ajwa Alemanji of Ajam Sonic Kitron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at www.themissionstribune.com, www.compassfreepress.com, and www.africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another day. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.